want to talk about 3 parts of speech. If you're going in order, these are the last 3 out of the 8 parts of speech that we find in English. So I call this the final act. First part of speech we want to take a look at are the prepositions. Prepositions are words that relate a noun or pronoun to the rest of the sentence. Your grammar text has a list of them. If you don't have access to your grammar text, you may note them at the following URL. You can see here englishplus.com/grammar/5030.htm. Okay, this would have a list of virtually all of the prepositions in English. Prepositions, as we said, are words that relate a noun or pronoun to the rest of the sentence. And if you think about it, the word preposition is formed from pre, which means in front of or before, and position. In other words, a word that comes before or in a position in front of other words. And in these 2 sentences, all the prepositions are italicized, and you can see how they relate a noun or pronoun to the rest of the sentence. So, to relates rest to the rest of the sentence. Of relates sentence to the rest of the sentence. About relates the pronoun it to the rest of the sentence. From relates pre plus position to the rest of the sentence. In relates words to the rest of the sentence. Before and in both relate, or in front of, both relate word to the rest of the sentence. So you can see how these prepositions work. Notice that some prepositions are compound prepositions. So in front of is considered a compound preposition. The noun or pronoun following the preposition is known as the object of the preposition. And the group of words beginning with the preposition and ending with the object, or perhaps modifiers of the object, is called a prepositional phrase. And we will study prepositional phrases in greater detail later, but it's a term that you should note. Notice here the prepositional phrases are italicized. So of the preposition is a prepositional phrase. Begins with of, ends with the object preposition. With its object or modifiers is a prepositional phrase beginning with it and ending with modifiers. Notice in this case it's got a compound object. Of the object is another prepositional phrase beginning with of, ending with object. Okay. Now, some prepositions may have compound objects, such as that phrase we just saw, with its object or modifiers. Okay, in this case, single preposition, but both object and modifiers are part of the phrase, 2 compound objects. And then also, as mentioned before, some prepositions are compounds. Lists are more complete, but include words like or phrases like in spite of, instead of, on account of, in addition to, except for, and there are a few others, like in front of that we saw. Keep in mind too that those word lists are very helpful, but many of those words can be other parts of speech. Remember, prepositions have objects. Adverbs and adjectives do not. So, here's an example. The nursery rhyme says, Jill came tumbling after. After is an adverb. There's no object. It's just the word after, answering the question when Jill came tumbling. Okay, however, if we said Jill came tumbling after Jack, now Jack is the object of after, so after is a preposition. So, clearly, important way to see whether it's a preposition or not is whether or not There is an object of the preposition. Occasionally in English, prepositions do come at the end of the sentence if there is more than one clause in the sentence. So here's an example. This is from a popular song in the 60s that said, "You are the one that I'm thinking of." Okay, the prepositional phrase is "of that," but the relative pronoun "that" comes at the beginning of the clause before the preposition. So, "you are the one that I'm thinking of," it's really, prepositional phrase is really "of that," but the "that" comes before the clause. Now, a few authorities do consider this non-standard. However, it's been used in English since the Middle Ages. Shakespeare's Hamlet uses that construction. King James Bible uses it. So, we would say that a lot of pretty standard writings do use this formation. But I do mention that because occasionally you will come across someone who, for some reason, has been taught that that's wrong. And if you're aware that you might be writing for an audience that, I could say, believes that way or feels that way, you might want to rewrite the sentence. I don't know, I guess you would say, "You are the one of whom I am thinking," or something like that. It's a little more awkward, but it would keep a few people happy anyhow. Do want to also let you know that some languages are very different from English and don't have prepositions. So Hungarian, for example, does not have a preposition, but every noun and pronoun has 27 different forms. And so those forms of the nouns perform the same function. And also, in case you couldn't figure it out, the word of preposition is usually abbreviated PREP in dictionaries when they give the part of speech of the word in a dictionary. Okay, we'll go into this in more detail later, but I do want to mention that all prepositional phrases act as one of two parts of speech. They are often adjective phrases. So notice that these underlined prepositional phrases are adjective phrases. The prepositional phrases are acting as adjective. Of two parts modifies one. So it's modifying the pronoun one, so it's an adjective phrase. Of speech modifies parts, again, so it's acting as an adjective. And as we can see here, of two. Okay. Second type of prepositional phrase, which can modify a verb, adjective, or adverb, is an adverb phrase. And of course, they answer the adverb questions: where, when, in what manner, to what extent. And also with phrases, you don't see this with individual words, but with phrases, they can answer the question why. So, I go to school. Okay, to school answers the question where, modifies the verb go. He will return in 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, prepositional phrase, answers the question when, modifies the verb will return. With much enthusiasm, answers the question in what manner, again modifies the verb spoke. To what extent, he ran until the point of exhaustion. Okay, actually two prepositional phrases which together answer the question to what extent, again modifying the verb ran. He lied out of fear, answering the question why, again modifying lied. Notice out of is one of those compound prepositions. Okay, second part of speech we want to take a look at are the conjunctions. Conjunction comes from the prefix con, which means with or together, plus the root J-U-N-C-T, junked, which means to join. Just think about what a junction is. A junction is where two roads or two railroads join. Okay, a place where things join is a junction. So conjunction just means a place where, or a part of speech where things or joined together. Okay, and on this screen, the conjunctions are underlined. They all happen to be the word or, but you can see or joins with and together. Here the word or joins words or groups, and here again or joining words or groups. Conjunctions are abbreviated in dictionaries as CONJ, again pretty easy to figure out. And in English there are three kinds of conjunctions: coordinating conjunctions, correlative conjunctions, and subordinating conjunctions. Okay, coordinating conjunctions are the common single word conjunctions we use all the time. They join many words or groups of words together. And in modern English there are 7 of them: and, but, or, nor, for, so, and yet. And in this sentence is the coordinating conjunction. Okay, keep in mind that some of these words can be other parts of speech. But is usually a conjunction, but sometimes it may be a preposition meaning except. You know, they chose everyone but him. Okay, they chose everyone except him or except for him. For is usually a preposition, but it can be a conjunction. So, you say, is that for me? There, for me is a prepositional phrase, for is a preposition. So and yet are usually adverbs, although it can be a conjunction. So many people are not here yet. In this case, so modifies many. It's an adverb. Yet answers the question when. Again, it's an adverb. Occasionally for, so, and yet can be conjunctions. So here are some examples. 2 and 2 is 4. Again, the 2 twos are joined with the and. That's coordinating conjunction, and. Many are called, but few are chosen. But is joining these 2 clauses. It's a conjunction. Did you go there yesterday or today? Again, or is joining yesterday and today, so it's the coordinating conjunction. John did not want it, nor does Mary. Okay, in this case, nor is joining the 2 clauses. He did not come, for he was delayed. Here, for is joining the 2 clauses, it's the coordinating conjunction. He was delayed, so he did not come. In this case, so is joining the 2 clauses, and it's the coordinating conjunction. He was strong, yet modest. Okay, yet is joining modest and strong, so it's acting as the conjunction in that sentence. The second type of conjunctions we have are correlative conjunctions. Correlative conjunctions are a little bit tricky because they come in pairs. The first part of the pair goes between the first word or group of words being joined, and the second part of the pair goes between the last 2 words or groups of words being joined. In modern English, we usually know 5 of them. 5 of them. Both, and, either or, neither nor, not but, and whether or. And some of you, depending on what part of the world you come from, you may pronounce those words either or neither. Some authorities will include not only but also. Some authorities consider that just a variation of not but some will include them as a separate correlative conjunction. So I just mentioned that. I forget which one your textbook uses. Okay, both Joan and Mary finished the race. Notice the conjunction is both, and. Okay, both words make up the correlative conjunction. A lot of times on exercises, and this is a warning, students will underline the and, or say, yeah, and is the conjunction, but they'll forget about the both. Okay, either fish or cut bait. Okay, famous proverbial expression. Okay, either or joining fish and cut. Neither sun, rain, nor snow will keep them away. Again, neither nor is the correlative conjunction. Usually correlative conjunctions are with pairs of words or groups of words, but occasionally they are used in a series like this. It was not for you, but for him. Okay, in not but. I will go whether it rains or does not rain, whether or. There's a little saying some of you may be familiar with, a word play on whether and weather. Whether it's cold, whether it's hot. We're going to have weather, whether or not. Yes. Okay, third type of conjunction is the subordinating conjunction. Subordinating conjunctions introduce many subordinate clauses by relating the clause to the rest of the sentence. And remember from when we studied pronouns, a clause is a group of words in a sentence with a subject and a verb. Okay, a subordinate clause is a clause which cannot stand alone as a complete sentence. This clause that's underlined is a subordinate clause, which cannot stand alone as a complete sentence. It can't stand alone as a complete sentence, but it has a subject and a verb, which is the subject, can stand is the verb. So it's a subordinate clause. Now, it just so happens which, you might recall, is not a subordinating conjunction. Which, you might recall, is a relative pronoun. Okay, we will study clauses in greater detail, much greater detail, later on. But you do need to know what a clause is to talk about subordinating conjunctions. Okay. Now again, your list has a text. Your text has a list, I should say, of the common subordinating conjunctions in modern English. If you do not have access to a text, you can find a list at englishplus.com/grammar/50377.htm. And that has a list of the subordinating conjunctions online. Once again, just as with prepositions, many times they introduce a subordinate clause at the beginning of a sentence. You know, many are called, although few are chosen. Here, although is a subordinating conjunction, but it could be at the beginning. Since you have been gone, he asks about you every day. Since is the subordinating conjunction. Now you could say the same sentence, he asks about you every day since you've been gone. No difference in meaning, so sometimes we put the clauses at the beginning, sometimes we put the clauses in the middle or end. I have no idea how he did that, and how is the subordinating conjunction. Here's some more just to show you. If it rains tomorrow, the game will be postponed. The game will be postponed if it rains tomorrow. You may have seen a pattern about the punctuation, that if the clause begins the sentence and begins with a subordinating conjunction, it's set off by a comma. You don't need the comma if it comes in the middle or end of the sentence, because the conjunction is functioning, that way. So again, if the subordinate clause comes after the main clause, no comma is needed because there is a conjunction. Notice this sentence has two subordinate conjunctions, one before the main clause, and so if through clause, and that is set off by a comma. However, the second clause, which begins with the subordinating conjunction because, the comma is not necessary because that comes after the main clause. Okay, remember this, a subordinating conjunction is always followed by a clause. In other words, it always is followed by a subject and a verb. Okay, many words that are subordinating conjunctions can be other parts of speech. Remember I talked about after before? Well, after can be an adverb, as we saw, it can be a preposition. Jill came tumbling after Jack. But it could also be a subordinating conjunction. If the sentence said Jill came tumbling after Jack had fallen, in that case, after is a subordinating conjunction because it's followed by a clause. Subject Jack had fallen, the verb. So you do have to be careful. Certainly memorizing or being familiar with the lists can help, but you also do have to see how it's functioning in the sentence. One other type, sort of conjunction type of word that I want to mention here, I didn't talk about it earlier, is a conjunctive adverb. Is an adverb that's used to connect two independent clauses or sentence parts that express a complete idea and can stand alone. And the clauses joined by a conjunctive adverb are usually separated by a semicolon. And the conjunctive adverbs themselves are set off by a comma or commas. And again, your book has a list of common conjunctive adverbs, and I've duplicated that list here. You can take a minute if you want to read them accordingly, again, also besides, consequently, finally, furthermore, however, indeed, moreover, nevertheless, otherwise, then, therefore, and thus. Here are some examples. Billy and Joe were there. Also, John came. Many are called, however, few are chosen. In this case, however, is a conjunctive adverb. Notice the conjunctive adverb doesn't necessarily have to go at the beginning of the second clause. We could say many are called, few, however, are chosen. Or we could say many are called, few are chosen, however. However is still functioning as the conjunctive adverb no matter where in the clause it appears. And so it is set off by a comma, or if it's in the middle of the clause, a pair of commas. Okay, therefore is a common conjunctive adverb. You've probably used that in your geometry classes if you're taking geometry. Sides A and B and C are congruent. Therefore, comma, angles BAC and ACB are equal. Okay, the last part of speech in English we want to talk about is the interjection. Interjections are used much more in speech than in writing. And an interjection is a word or short group of words that shows a feeling or emotion and is not grammatically related to the rest of the sentence. You can remove the interjection from the sentence unless it's by itself, and the overall meaning does not change. Okay? No grammatical function or relation. Interjections are frequently followed by exclamation points, but may be set apart by commas, depending on how forceful they are. So, less emphatic interjections are set off by commas, more emphatic ones use exclamation points. Wow! You did a fantastic job. Wow is pretty emphatic. That's usually set off by an exclamation point. Yes, his name is Frederick. Yes is an interjection. It's not necessary for the meaning of the sentence, and it's set off by commas. But if you say, yes, that was so exciting, there you would probably have the exclamation point after the yes. Oh, how could you? Oh, in this case, exclamation point. Notice that some words that are interjections, not a whole lot, but some, can be other parts of speech. So, no, my name is not Alvin. In this case, no is the interjection. But if you said, I have no bananas today, no here is an adjective modifying bananas. Why did you do that? Here in this sentence, why is an adverb, actually an interrogative adverb. Why, I have not seen one of those in years. In this case, why is an interjection. It's just expressing surprise or emotion of some kind. Okay, except for yes and no, and sometimes why, most interjections express a strong sentiment. Sometimes yes and no do as well. But that's why they frequently take exclamation points. So you should say, hooray, or ah. And a lot of interjections that we use are really ways of writing out sounds that we make. And kind of talk about those as being like onomatopoeia or something. So, whew, whew, ugh, people don't usually say tut unless they're talking about an Egyptian king, but they say, and that's the way we express it. Again, people don't usually say ugh, but they say ugh, and that's just what that's supposed to say. Same And so you have to maybe think about some of those more onomatopoetic interjections when you come across those, and exactly how they're pronounced. And because interjections are often that way, there may not be one standard way to spell them. You'll see hooray spelled H-O-O-R-A-Y or H-U-R-R-A-Y. You may see sh, just S-H. You may see it as H-U-S-H. You know, Shakespeare used tush, which confuses students today because they think of another word that has that same meaning. Also, there are two kinds of O's. Both of them are interjections. O-H is an expression of surprise, pain, or other feeling or emotion. Oh, brother. Oh, no! Something like that. Whereas O without the H is used in a direct address or an apostrophe when you're talking to someone or something else. You know, oh, Christmas tree. Okay, that would be O without the H. Oh, brother, where art thou? Again, that's O without the H. Okay, so taking a look at prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections. Now, I just want to spend the last few minutes of this lecture, if you will, just reviewing the 8 parts of speech. Remember, a noun is a word that names a person, place, thing, idea, action, condition, or quality, and answers the question who or what. Okay, and you might recall we sometimes talk about different kinds of nouns. There's abstract or concrete nouns, collective nouns or groups, compound nouns, words, nouns that are formed from more than one word, words like, I don't know, kingfisher or fisherman or something like that. Often make a distinction between common nouns and proper nouns. Proper nouns are, you know, names of something, they're capitalized. And then adverbial nouns, certain nouns that also act as adverbs sometimes, usually answering the question where or when, words like home or today. Okay. So hopefully this is coming back to you. Pronouns are words that take the place of or stand for a noun. Because of that, they also answer the question who or what, but you know, they function in a different way. Most pronouns have an antecedent. In other words, they take the place of the noun. Most common types of pronouns are the personal pronouns. I, you, we, us, he, she, it, they, them, and so on. Reflexive and intensive pronouns, and with self or selves. Reflexive means, you know, you do or function some way to or on yourself. You see yourself in the mirror, or you wake yourself up. Intensive is for emphasis. I did it myself. No one else helped me. Demonstrative pronouns, there are only 4 in modern English. This, that, these, and those. They point out, give me that. What are those? Relative pronouns, there are only 5 or 6 in modern English. They relate a clause to the rest of the sentence. That, which, who, what, and so on. Interrogative pronouns, again, there are 5 in modern English. I think they all begin with W. Who, what, which, whom, are 4 of them. And then we have a number of indefinite pronouns. Those are pronouns which often don't have an antecedent, either because the antecedents are unknown or because it'll come later, or they're just general terms like other or another. Sometimes we don't know, so we say someone or no one. But those are examples of indefinite pronouns, and I think your textbook has a list of those. Okay, verbs. Verbs are important. Verb is a word that expresses time while showing an action, condition, or a fact that something exists. Verbs either do something or they show a condition or existence of something. In English, we have 4 kinds of verbs. We have the transitive verbs, the intransitive verbs. Remember, transitive, they're acting on something else. Intransitive don't act on anything else. Linking verbs are the ones that show a condition or existence, where, I am a teacher. Okay, am in that sentence is a linking verb. And then also we have auxiliary verbs, sometimes called helping verbs, the verbs that are added to another verb to make a verb phrase. In fact, are added. Are in that sentence was an auxiliary verb. Adjectives. An adjective is a word that modifies a noun or pronoun to give the noun or pronoun a more specific meaning. Answers the question, which one, what kind, how many, or how much. Okay, tricky thing with adjectives sometimes is other parts of speech can act as adjectives. Nouns can act as adjectives, like orange juice. Possessive personal pronouns are often used as adjective. That is his car. Demonstrative pronouns frequently used as adjectives. What is this lesson? Okay, in that case, it's acting as an adjective. Interrogative pronouns. Whose lesson is this? Okay, in that case, it's acting as an adjective. And verbs can act as adjectives. Listen to the babbling brook, something like that. Okay, took a look at a couple different kinds of adjectives. An article is an adjective, really only usually considered 3 in English. A, an, and the. Some authorities will include no sometimes. Just let you know whether there's a noun coming and it's a specific noun or it's a general noun. Proper adjectives are formed from proper nouns. They're capitalized in English, and they're used often to name a country or things like that. Something like, French toast, or the English language. Okay, in those cases, they come from the proper noun, but used as an adjective. And then we have compound adjectives, just as we have compound nouns. Sometimes they're hyphenated, sometimes the words are not hyphenated. Okay, an adverb is another modifier. It modifies verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. And adverbs answer the questions either where, when, in what manner, to what extent or degree. And types of adverbs are adverbial nouns. I talked about those just recently, words like home or today, and conjunctive adverbs. We looked at those earlier in detail in those lessons. Preposition, talked about those today. Word that relates a noun or pronoun to the rest of the sentence. Noun or pronoun is the object of the preposition, normally comes after the preposition. Preposition plus its object and any modifiers is a prepositional phrase. Prepositional phrase acts either as an adjective or adverb. Some prepositions are compound. With certain clauses, the preposition may come after the relative pronoun that is its object. Conjunctions are a word or pair of words used to connect a word or group of words to other words or groups of words. Types of conjunctions, the coordinating conjunctions, 7 single word conjunctions, and, or, but, for, and so on. Correlative conjunctions are paired conjunctions like both, and, either, or some people say either, or. And then subordinating conjunctions are conjunctions that introduce subordinate clauses, include words like although, and since, and after. And a lot of times it's helpful to notice a list of those that are in your textbook or posted online. Interjections, the last part of speech, word or small group of words that show feelings or emotion and are not grammatically related to any other part of the sentence. They're more common in speech than in writing. Usually they're set apart from other parts of any sentences with commas, or more commonly with exclamation points. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in class. If you're watching this and you're not in my class, you can go to englishplus.com and go to the contact page, and someone will answer the question that you may have. Once again, thank you for listening. God bless you.